A tit for tat, Beijing hits back at COVID-19 curbs imposed on travelers from China. Short-term visas to enter the mainland will no longer be issued for visitors from South Korea and Japan. And when that suspension will end, that also remains uncertain. The suspension comes on the back of South Korea and Japan requiring all arrivals from the mainland to show negative COVID-19 test results before flight and on arrival. Other countries imposing similar restrictions include the United States and France. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol says its measures are focused on the safety of its citizens.
우리 정부의 중국발 입국자를 대상으로 한 방역 강화 조치는 과학적이고 객관적인 근거에 입각해서 내린 조치입니다.
Meanwhile, Malaysia has set up special lanes for travelers out of China at its international ports. That's on top of measures announced earlier, including wastewater testing for aircraft flying in from China and temperature screenings for all inbound travelers. Beijing has maintained it firmly opposes what it calls discriminatory entry restrictions and will take equivalent measures. This as mainland China demands negative test results from anyone landing in the country. And for more, CNA's Lo Min joins us live from Shanghai. Min, can you tell us more about China's suspensions of these short-term visas and what that could mean for the countries involved?
Well, the suspension of these short-term visas applies to not just tourist visas, but also business, medical, and transit visas. So quite wide-ranging in its impact. Pretty much all kinds of short-term travel for South Koreans into China is suspended, at least until South Korea lifts corresponding restrictions on Chinese travelers. But that, of course, puts South Korea in a very difficult position because they cannot do that without losing face or looking as if they are bowing down to Chinese pressure. And it's a particularly bitter pill to swallow for them, especially a few days after an incident in South Korea in which a Chinese traveler who tested positive for COVID-19 had escaped from quarantine and went missing. So he was later found in a hotel, but that incident really sparked concerns that Chinese travelers could spread more infections to South Korea, especially after local government statistics show that at least 25% of Chinese arrivals had tested positive for COVID-19. And so in all likelihood, this is going to end only when the COVID infection rates in China stabilizes to an extent that convinces and reassures other countries that it is safe to open up their borders to Chinese travelers, because that would then provide a political off-ramp for both sides to lift restrictions.
Min, of course, South Korea and Japan are hardly the only countries imposing some form of COVID-19 restrictions on travelers from China. Given that other countries are doing the same or some type of restriction, can they expect to be facing the same kind of, I suppose, curbs from China?
It's quite likely that that could happen because China has given ample warnings that they would retaliate against countries that impose restrictions on Chinese travelers. The foreign ministry has repeatedly called these foreign restrictions a form of political manipulation and discrimination against Chinese. And the foreign ministry has also said that this is based on an unfounded fear that China could export new variants of the virus overseas. The foreign ministry said that the virus is under control in China and most variants found here are already discovered in other countries. And we know that a number of countries, including the UK, Australia, Canada, the US, and India, among others, have imposed these travel restrictions on Chinese travelers. It remains to be seen if these countries would look at what's happened to South Korea and recalibrate their own policies towards Chinese arrivals. But again, it's unlikely that they will adjust their policy anytime soon. And that is going to be a big blow to the travel industry, not just for those countries that are going to lose out on tourism dollars from China, but also for China, which will remain isolated from a number of countries, even after they have finally decided to open up their borders after 3 years of zero COVID.
And thanks for that update. Lo Min speaking live to us there from Shanghai.